All right. Welcome to Rev Talk. Today we're going to be continuing our talk about the flood that happened in Kerr County, Kerrville. And we're asking the question, was this done on purpose? Was this manipulated by science, by technology? Was this something that could have been avoided? Was this simply a natural disaster? And I want you guys to post your answers in the comments. What do you think? Do you think this is just another day at the office? Or do you think there is something up with what happened in Texas over the weekend that basically started on the 4th of July? So we're going to talk about that. I'm going to share some video clips. I don't think we'll go very long today, maybe like an hour or something, but I feel like we have to build a case for this. If I'm going to propose something like perhaps this was done on purpose, I have to I have to build a bit of a case for you guys, because that way it's not just, oh, anybody could say anything. Anybody could just throw out ideas and just say, you know what, this happened on purpose, or this didn't, or whatever, right? I remember on July 3rd, I spent a great deal of time talking about a Black Swan event that I felt was going to happen on July 4th. Now, granted, I was thinking it was going to be a visible physical attack, perhaps in Washington, somewhere around there on the 4th of July, while the festivities began, all that kind of stuff. But I remember saying in my video, the definition of a black swan is that you can't see it coming. You don't expect it. And I went into great lengths to talk about examples of a black swan and what happens after. And the biggest thing that happens after a black swan event is heroes get produced. Heroes. It's not a bad thing. I'm just telling you, this is the DNA of a black swan. Afterwards, because you can't explain it, why nobody knew about it, why nobody was told, you have to produce heroes quickly. You have to run stories of people perhaps rescued, stuck in a tree, firefighters going beyond the call of duty, ambulance drivers, whatever, field workers, all the stuff. You have to show those stories right away. And again, I'm not saying that's bad. That happened during 9/11. The next day, or a few days later, we started getting stories about heroes and less about what actually caused the buildings to go down, why these planes were able to be hijacked. Was it an inside job? All these questions were kind of getting squashed because we had heroes to take care of. We had heroes to talk about, to interview, to cheer on, all this, like all their heroic stories. We had to cheer for that. And that's what happens after a Black Swan event, to move you away a little bit from what actually happened leading up to this. Like, why was there only a weather warning at about, seemed like the last flash warning was about 1 o'clock. Now you can go to different media sources. You can go on YouTube. You can go on the website somewhere, and you can go look up weather reports, all this kind of stuff. But what I mean is an actual, let's just send a message out to the county saying, look, there's a potential flash flood. I think the last one went out at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And as far as I could find, somebody can correct me in the audience, but I didn't see any more flash flood warnings till 1 o'clock in the morning. And that's when they said, you have to take shelter, you have to evacuate, whatever, all this kind of stuff, because there is a flash flood. It's happened. It's imminent. It's upon you. And by then, there was rumors of 20-foot high swelling of the river. Like, it actually rose 20 feet. Some say 30 feet. Within 45 minutes, you'll hear that story over and over again. Took 40 minutes to rise 25 feet, 30 feet, 45 minutes, 50 minutes, 1 hour. But for 12 hours, there was no media coverage. Zero media coverage leading up to 1 o'clock in the morning. And arguably, there was nothing till like 6 o'clock the next day. That's July 5th. That's when I started hearing, and I was looking for a Black Swan event, and nothing showed up on Friday night because everybody was focused on what Trump was bringing to the table. He was celebrating the 4th of July on the lawn of the White House. We saw a B-2 bomber with fighter jets go above. Beautiful skies. Everything was just perfect. The setting was just perfect. Meanwhile, there was carnage in and around the Kerr County. So, yeah, like they waited on purpose. They didn't wanna let anyone panic. They didn't want that atmosphere. The 200 can you imagine? On the 250th anniversary, July 4th, this is what we remember July 4th for, is Texas. They didn't want that. They wanted it to be spectacular, memorable, happy, all this stuff, so they suppressed everything, and I don't think the media is to blame directly because they probably didn't know either what was going on. Because there were no reports, there were no weather reports, so why would you panic when you're focused on telling your stories regarding July 4th? So, and again, nobody was talking about Texas on July 3rd. There was not one channel talking saying, "Look, this could be really bad. You guys need to evacuate." I didn't hear any, and if you go back in time, you type in Texas, Kerr, flood, whatever, you're gonna see everything happening after July 5th. You're not gonna see anything July 4th or July 3rd. Now, I did find one video, and this is fascinating. We gotta spend a little bit of time watching this video. I'm gonna listen to the guy tell the report because I need to put you into the time frame of what was happening in that area, and I need you to listen to how a radar expert was describing what's going to happen over the next few hours. And then I want you to see what he says right at the end. It's only going to be like 10 minutes or so. But again, I can't emphasize this enough. This is important to put you into the mindset to what's going on the night before. And then we can go to some other sources. I think you're gonna wanna sit down for this. You're gonna sit down for this because this I think this will blow your socks off, and then you're gonna be walking away scratching your head going, "What? Are you serious? Are you serious?" But we gotta build this up. We have to build this up. Alright, so let's just go to this first clip here. We're gonna watch this. I'm gonna share my comments every once in a while too, but I think it's important. Again, it's just like another 10 minutes or so of this. So this is this gentleman here.
I know, right, JJ? Nice temps. Pouring in Bernie. Hey, Vanessa. Shout out Windsor Mission Oaks. You got it. Not tomorrow night, Anastasia. It looks as though most of this moisture is out by midday tomorrow, but chances are not done. We'll have a slight chance tomorrow night.
So this is, if you notice the clock, it's 8:30 p.m. Thursday night. So this guy's getting ready to shut her down. 8 o'clock at night. Notice all the green? There's no warning that a 20 to 30 foot swell is coming to wash out a lot of these little communities, these counties, especially along the river. No hint yet.
And then another 20 to 30% chance Saturday. Natalie, I don't think it gets too bad. You know, I mean, it's going to be possible. I mean, I don't want to, because Uvalde is in the flood watch through tomorrow morning. This is flash flood alley. These rain showers can put down a lot of rain quickly. And remember, when we're a city on a hill. It's raining downhill. So with these high rainfall rates, it goes immediately to runoff and immediately to flash flooding. That's hence the term flash, that it's happening within hours of the rain beginning. And so that's why, I mean, the flood watch is in effect now, and it goes through tomorrow morning. So let's take a look at which model's even initializing best. Not bad here with the HRRR putting heavy rain just about a county away up I-35. That's pretty good. Now the graph, see how it's initializing? Not as well, not as well. So we put a little more confidence in the former, the HRRR, and you can see here's another wave developing by 10 and moving across Kendall County. There's Uvalde, but it looks, see, you get a storm there, some heavy rain about 9-10 o'clock, but it moves out quickly. So not too bad in Uvalde. But you see how that range just sits right there to the west. Look.
And we're going to talk about this. I'm glad he mentioned it, that the storm just seems like it's just sitting there. Kerrville, that's what we're looking at. Look at that right in the middle there. That center color, that pink, that purple, all that is telling you that this is almost tropical like in nature. And this is important. This is important for me to use these terms. This is a tropical like storm. This is not your average. Someone commented, we wouldn't blink at a radar like this with Stampede, and I agree with you. If it was all green like this, it'd be like, yeah, let's just get on our cowboy boots and our cowboy hat, and off we go. But he just mentioned that this is just going to pass. This is going to pass. So by Friday, 4 a.m. So they're giving a bit of a forecast as to what's going on. So they're even forecasting that at 4 o'clock in the morning, this is what you're going to get. So they're telling you basically, go to sleep. You're okay. But we know at about 5:01 a.m., they were reporting huge swells of up to 30 feet by 5 a.m. So what happened between 8:30 at night and 5 a.m.?
Look, it's now 4 a.m. and it's still heavy rain there just northwest of the city. 7 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m. It starts moving in from west to east to Bexar County, covering the city through midday tomorrow. And then it starts to taper off early afternoon. So that's your greatest flood threat right there, is the way that rain hardly moves there for, let's see, it starts up, I mean, that's practically 10 o'clock. Look at that. That's 6 hours. And then another burst. I mean,
so he's basically saying that, and I think he's not in on this. I think he got confused there. He's like, this doesn't make any sense that a storm can sit for 6 or 8 hours in one spot. That should ring alarm bells saying that the data that he's looking at is wrong, that it's been manipulated. Because for a storm to stay in one spot until 11 o'clock Friday morning is bizarro. And I'm not a weather guy, but that's not how storms work. They move in and they move out. They get worse, and then they gradually get softer. And he's saying by 11 o'clock, this is just going to move on and basically nothing to see here. So I feel like the model's confusing to him because he's not used to seeing something like this where a storm sits there for 6 or 8 hours in one spot.
A real training effect here with an MCS forming. That's what we call a mesoscale convective system. And if this scenario unfolds just this way, this would be a real flood problem out to our west and northwest. And remember, that water would move into the city as well.
So again, he's talking about Friday,
so please stay weather aware. That's why this is a weather impact alert.
2-3 o'clock in the afternoon on Friday is what he's saying. That's why he's looking at the models like, man, if this model's right, like by 5 o'clock or by the afternoon on Friday, this looks like a huge wall of water. So the model isn't adding up for him. I think he's trying to calculate it like this is not making sense, that there's a gap of like 6 hours.
Through tomorrow morning, please have the KENS 5 app on your phone so you have radar in the palm of your hand. You have notifications on for alerts that are issued. Because what will happen is when flash flood warnings become necessary, they'll come out not county by county, but areas. It could be, you know, a couple of counties to even 3 or 4, depending on the size of the impacted area. All right, you know what we're going to do? We're going to close Facebook and reopen it and hope that I don't have to keep looking at refreshing. No morning barbecue. I would stay in the kitchen and make an omelet. Driving back from Phoenix currently, near Tucson, en route to San Antonio. I should be back in El Paso by 12:31. You think the interstate? Yes. So you're saying 12:31 a.m. El Paso? So that puts you here. Yeah, you should be fine. You should be fine.
So again, he's looking at 3 o'clock in the morning on Friday, and he's like, you should be fine. He's telling the person that's driving, he's basically saying, look, you're okay. 12:30, yeah, you'll be fine. Unbeknownst to him, a couple of hours later, those, I think it's called Junction Highway, that gets basically washed up. It's all along the Galalapi River, and that gets washed out as well. Like, you're almost, pretend you are the fire department, police, or whatever, and you say, you know what? We got to evacuate the city or whatever. They're all going to go down Junction Highway, which would be a catastrophe as well. This gentleman is not aware. You can argue and say that he was aware, but he kind of, to me, he looks confused at the data that he's reading, that it doesn't make any sense to him because the storm's sitting there, and then he's looking at 3 o'clock and he's like, yeah, according to what I'm looking at, you should be safe to arrive at 12:30, which arguably was the worst time to show up, the worst time to drive. You're in trouble.
Make it stop. Sitting in the Lotus waiting for the fireworks, right? I know. Yeah, the Helotes celebration is at, I think they're going to do the fireworks at 9. Royal Caribbean, what? Good for you, Brian. Out in the Gulf, it's nice. What's that? Oh, that happened at 8 o'clock. You're good.
Breaking news, Bill. There's a flood watch. It's expanded. He's like, no, you're good still. So they're just telling him right now at about 8:30 at night, the flood watch is actually expanded. You just heard them say that to him. He's like, what? Qu'est-ce que c'est? What? Still didn't faze him.
Right now, you're being trained by the environment, and you're going to have a million things pulling on you. And it's so easy.
Yeah, we got the crawl. We had a crawl go for that, and that's why I came on a little early. Yes, sir.
You still live?
So
They're
I gotta
asking
lean
him,
towards
are you
this
still live?
HRRR initialized well. Now let's just take a look at what the graph is doing moving forward into tonight. It develops a pretty good round of rain right there, but see, it doesn't have anything now and moving through the 10 p.m. hour and even midnight that it would take overnight hours, and then it's not even much at all. I mean, it just doesn't. So I really want to stay with the HRRR and.
Yeah, so that graph that he has is like there's nothing showing up. So I think he's getting conflicting reports. one map, he's like, you know what? We're going to go back to the other map because I think that one's more accurate, but everything is delayed by 6 hours. This map doesn't show anything happening in Kerr. Look at that. Thursday, 8 o'clock at night, nothing. At 8 o'clock, there's hardly any droplets compared to San Marcos, Austin. Heavy at 8 o'clock at night. So the model's weird.
Let's prepare for the worst and pray for the best. Maybe absolutely from Hondo up through Medina Lake. Uvalde fire, ready for any floods in Uvalde. Way to go, Chip King. God bless you all and the first responders. Praying for your safety right now. Lord, protect all our first responders tonight in everything they do. Early morning hours of July 4th could bring heavy rain. Absolutely, Jay. Absolutely. But especially as we're looking here, especially west, so we're getting the heavy rain now, but the important thing is to be looking forward and seeing where the pockets are expected to come together. It could be anywhere across this area. And that's why, it most likely is going to be from here into the hill country, with us being the farthest east that it would develop. But that's why, once again, excuse me for it is the chair, not my back. I'm getting old, but my back isn't that bad. Sometimes I think, like, is that my back? That's the chair. But yeah, you can see that again. If this scenario unfolds as it's showing, this would be a real flood problem, a big flood problem. And so we're going to have to watch this very, very closely.
So notice that, I'll just back up a bit.
It just doesn't. So I really want to stay with the HRRR, and let's prepare for the worst and pray for the best. Maybe absolutely from Hondo up through Medina Lake. Uvalde fire, ready for any floods in Uvalde. Way to go, Chip King. God bless you all and the first responders. Praying for your safety right now. Lord, protect all our first responders tonight in everything they do. Early morning hours of July 4th could bring heavy rain. Absolutely, Jay. Absolutely. But especially as we're looking here, especially west, so we're getting the heavy rain now, but the important thing is to be looking forward and seeing where the pockets are expected to come together. It could be anywhere across this area. And that's why, it most likely is going to be from here into the hill country, with us being the farthest east that it would develop. But that's why, once again, excuse me for the.
At 12 o'clock a.m., if you look at that, that is a massive tropical storm moving into Kerrville. I can see it right now. And I'm not a radar expert. I don't know what he's not seeing, but that purple in the middle is tropical. You look to the east, it's all green, nice, lots of rain, lots of precipitation. But on the left, that's headed towards Kerrville at noon. So currently he's at about 8:30. So he just fast forward to about 12 o'clock. And he's like, yeah, this is just going to stick around for like 6 or 7 hours. And somebody said, hey, this just expanded. Are you going live? And he's like, yeah, I'm going live. Like, he's wanting to wrap up and basically go to bed.
It is the chair, not my back. I'm getting old, but my back isn't that bad. Sometimes I think, like, is that my back? That's the chair. But yeah, you can see that again. If this scenario unfolds as it's showing, this would be.
So 11 o'clock a.m., he's like, if this unfolds as it's showing, this will be a nightmare. So I'm not trying to paint this guy as a bad guy. I'm trying to show you the demeanor of what people are thinking the night before, that this isn't imminent. This is not going to hit us today. This could hit us by 11 o'clock Friday morning or 12. So therefore, the model is off by 12 hours or more, because it's at 8:30 his time right now, and he's looking fast forwarding into the future, into Friday morning. And he's like, if these models are correct, this is a nightmare.
A real flood problem, a big flood problem. And so we're going to have to watch this very, very closely. Let's get back to live radar and what's actually happening now. Lavernia, hey, Cecilia, not a threat. I mean, you might get some showers, but this is primarily sending.
So nothing right now. There's something wrong with this model here. And I'm not blaming him. I'm just saying what he's looking at it going, yeah, like, don't worry about this stuff. And then he fast forwarded to the next day. I think the model shifted on him. It's like, yeah, 11 o'clock. But again, it's during the day. People can manage during the day because usually the storms kind of blow off a little bit more during the day. At night is usually when it gets the worst.
Antonio and north and west. So you're not in the watch, and I don't expect anything more than just a few showers for you. Jillian, come on. Our director, Jillian Manuel. You doing anything special? No, just going to be here actually working for the 4th this year. Yeah, I got to get some D-dub. Let's get this into just a couple of hours, shall we?
If you live in Canada and are tired of prices rising while your income stays the same, listen up. We've just launched.
Yeah, this thunderstorm is building north of Bernie, right across I-10. Going to be heading in towards Comfort. Where are you, Comfort? Well, I might just clip it. Probably stay east of Comfort, it looks like, and go in.
Yeah. So Kerrville is not even on his radar at 8:30 at night. So if I was watching this, I'd be like, I'm going to sleep because tomorrow, 4th of July, I got lots to do. He just said it's going to just the tip of Comfort. Just going to touch it. That's it. You'll notice to the right is Canyon Lake. That's where all the stuff gathers all the way down to Canyon Lake.
And towards North Kendall and Blanco. Oh, good job. All right. I mean, awesome, Jason. Hope you're having a great time down there. It's awesome. Weather pattern next 7 to 10. Changes are coming, Sharon. We'll get this tropical moisture out, kind of shifts gears a little bit heading into the weekend. We're going to have some slight chances Saturday, and then I'm dropping chances for Sunday, Monday. It shouldn't be bad. Hey, Charlie, happy 4th. You did. So it's Charlie, everybody. Thank you, because, you know, we need this rain. We don't want the flooding, but we definitely need every drop we can get. New drought report came out today. So
again, if you look up at the radar, light, green, see that? Radar, and then to the left says light rain, heavy rain. See that purple? That's almost to the right of the heavy. That purple's bad, folks. Very bad. And we saw that in the model as it progressed to 11 a.m. Friday. So if you're watching that and you're like, oh, we don't need to worry about that, that's tomorrow's problem. That's not tonight's problem. Tonight I can go to sleep.
we'll take a look at that too while we're here. But right now it's really Kendall County that's getting in, just western Comal County. Going to be Canyon Lake, North Kendall County. Bernie's going to start seeing the rain taper off here soon. And then we'll get a little break for a while. No hail, Emmanuel. You too, JR. Be safe out there. We were planning to go to Aquatica. Go in the afternoon, Juan. I wouldn't go early. I would plan by noon. You should be good. Yes. Valerie, absolutely. Friday, gusty winds. Maybe, but not too bad. I mean, an occasional gust, 10 to 15 is not going to be too bad. A little breezy at times, but nothing to cancel plans over. Let's take a look at the drought report, shall we? Came out today. No big change at all. No change from last week. It's still a bit of a blob-shaped exceptional drought area. It came out a little farther east, it looks like, maybe for Bear County, just a smidge, but now definitely a third of Bear, almost half a Bear. For sure, for sure.
Again, if you're just watching this now, what we're doing is we're watching the atmosphere of what this person was feeling the night before, like literally hours before Kerrville and surrounding area got flooded out. And by all accounts, he's not on high alert. He's like, yeah, you know what? This is just going to be another day at the office. You know, maybe a little bit of rain on Friday if these reports are accurate. Friday morning, like by 11 o'clock, 12 p.m., could be pretty bad. I hope not. I hope this is not accurate, but for sure tonight, you're good. He even told a driver said, hey, I'm driving into that area. I should be arriving around 12:30. Am I good? And he's like, yeah, you're fine. You're fine.
What about Hondo? Dog days of summer. Yeah, still to come, Hanak. You're exactly right. Hondo's got a real good chance, Evelyn, of seeing some very heavy rain tonight and into tomorrow morning. Not obviously short term, but probably developing later tonight. Yes. Well, it was the floods of 2002, Kelly. Very similar in a sense that we have a decaying tropical system. We got the low-level jet, and you can definitely get flooding rains in this setup. Yeah. Hey, Dan Garcia, they're doing great. Thank you very much. Spring Branch, yeah, absolutely, Brian, getting some good rain up there. Good soakers. Hope you're doing well. Hopefully not too badly, Grace, but yeah, that's what we're afraid of. Developing the same area and then just sitting still. You know, we can see that the heavy rain right now is over Bernie and heading up the 281 corridor. But if you take a look, what I'm going to show you now is the model that we're going with, which is the HRRR in this situation, because it's performing better. Normally that graph model's done a great job. So see, here's the next batch developing by about 10, just out to our northwest. And
see that batch that he's talking about? It skips. It's just weird. Let me just see if I can play it here. It's important to look at that purple. That purple's headed to Kerrville. It's headed there.
Let's take a look at the drought report, shall we?
Oh,
came out today.
Fast forward it a bit.
Say
another commercial.
Juggling multiple client sites? Supercharge your
you know, early afternoon Friday, and we get a few lingering showers, and then look what the the sun's not down. Yeah, see, this is really building. This rain's getting really heavy north of Bernie right now. See if the Slack channel's got anything on that. Somerset, nothing short term. You'll definitely get some rain overnight. You know, you'll definitely get some of that, Jerry. Happy 4th to you too. Hey, Sel, what's going on? How are you? Stone Oak's going to start seeing the rain come to an end now. If you haven't already, it should be tapering off pretty soon, Sel. And then more overnight. Possible. It looks like it's, you know, right now, west of you is the heaviest rain overnight.
Yeah, I think he's either checking messages or he's trying to get a live update because he noticed something headed towards Kerrville, and he's like, ooh, that looks like something developing. And then he looked at his watch, and it's like, okay, it's 1:45. I really should be wrapping up right now because I got other things to do or whatever. But he caught something there. And then it was like, no, Can't be. Can't be.
No, nothing on Slack as far as what we're seeing on the on that heavy rain.
So again, he's going to different models, and it's like this. I think inside he's like, this is not making sense based on the different charts. Like I saw something bad move in, and then I'm looking at the live, and it's like, no, that's confusing. Like this guy's trained to study these maps, to study weather patterns, and I think this is stumping him because perhaps the models are incorrect and he can't figure it out right now. Like this doesn't make sense. Like this should be a storm, but what I'm looking at here is not a storm, but yet it's saying there is a storm brewing. And then again, as mentioned a few minutes earlier, somebody yelled at him saying, we just got this in. The area is expanded. And he's like, yeah, it's not so bad. Are you live? Yes, I'm live. Probably just going through all the different models going, this is not making sense here.
Just writing a text because we got some people out at the Helotes 4th of July celebration.
That's down here, Helotes. So people are sending him texts.
So they're getting a good break when they need it because I think they're doing fireworks at 9. I'm just grateful that within an exceptional drought, we're getting some rain that helps prevent fire accidents with all the fireworks and all the rookies with their fireworks.
So to say that tells me he's unaware that this tropical storm is moving in faster than humanly possible than anyone thought. Because it's already, look, it's almost like 10 to 9, and he's like, yeah, this is good. Rain is good to put out fires and all this kind of stuff. He's winding down his night.
Because that's what's going to be happening. The old, fireworks that are illegal inside city limits. I've never seen anything less enforced in my life. I mean, when you see this city, like living in Helotes, there are spots where you can see from SeaWorld all the way over to West San Antonio. I mean, across the entire city. If you get up into like Iron Horse Canyon or into, even Tower Road, you can go behind the CVS, the older neighborhoods of Helotes, and you can see the entire city. Go out there on New Year's Eve or on the 4th of July and tell me that it's illegal. I mean, it's laughable. It's just, a sea of fireworks. It's unbelievable how many people break the law tomorrow night and on New Year's. How the beach in Corpus is going to be, please. I don't know, Eric. I can take a look for you. That is such a sincere plead for a forecast. You got it, my brother.
Yeah, I'm
Let's
just
take a look.
gonna fast forward a little bit here, a couple minutes.
But nothing like what Bernie's getting and what we've got heading over the I-10 corridor right now.
So everything is missing Kerrville right now. It's all to the east of Comfort.
Not a ton of lightning, but fair amount. Again, nothing severe, just a heavy rainfall that could lead to some localized flooding. Can't wait to see the drought monitor map after this, right? So hitting a pretty good target area for sure, JJ. That's a great point because Medina, Bandera, most of Kendall, all exceptional drought. Of course, we won't see what effect it has until next Thursday, a week from today. 211 and 90, not a drop. Excuse me. Yeah, this all north, well north of you, but that won't be the case again overnight. Should be seeing some more developed on. Philip is in Austin, just raining all day. Never going to complain about rain. Yeah, right. And that's what happened on the 12th. June 12th, we had 3.5 inches in 1 hour, literally in the game.
Interesting. June 12th, 3.5 inches. So just a few weeks ago. And last year, they actually had a flood as well. So their alert system internally is down because, hey, this is another day. This is just another day in Flash Flood Alley.
Gauge. That's not a rainfall estimate on radar. That was what was collected in 1 hour at San Antonio International. And it led to deadly flooding that night.
Wow.
All right, so here's what's going to happen. I'm going to keep this on for now. I've got to go run a crawl on Ken's 5 television in the meantime. But I'll keep this radar going for you so you can keep an eye on where this action is. Again, flash flood watch until 7 a.m. Friday from San Antonio into the hill country. Not Seguin, not New Braunfels. You are not in this watch. The watch is in effect for San Antonio, Bernie, and then out west to Del Rio and up into the hill country. God bless you all. Keep you updated right here. We'll keep radar going.
All right. So
To become a participant and automatically earn passive income, do not click on any fraudulent links. The link.
all right. So he's gone doing a crawl, basically running graphics somewhere else. He left this radar on all night. Now, we're not going to watch the whole thing in real time, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to fast forward to the time where it becomes a nightmare. So he's gone. He's like, I'm going to leave this radar up for you guys. And he leaves it up till like 7 o'clock in the morning. So we can get an accurate idea of what's actually happening right before our very eyes. And I'm just going to fast forward to about 1 o'clock in the morning. And I want to see what's going on with the weather. And again, there's no panic. Nobody's panicking. So let me just fast forward this here. Again, I think there's maybe people in the background. You don't hear anything. So basically 9:02. So I'm going to fast forward to 10 o'clock. So just keep an eye on Kerrville. So we're going to go ahead. What time is it now? 8:30. We're at 9:12. Let's fast forward to about 10 o'clock. Let's go ahead 40 minutes or so. So you can see it's starting to push a little bit north. Still missing Kerrville. Okay, so let's go even forward a little bit more. Now we are at 10 o'clock at night. And still lots of green, lots of green. So let's go to, let's see here, they're zooming in now on Kerrville. Flood advisory, Kendall, 12:30. So now we get the first flood advisory at 12:30, like they're saying until 12:30. So right now, counties of Kendall. Where is Kendall here? I don't see Kendall in here. I think it'll show a few counties. I think. So then it just zooms out and then it'll come back in. So let's just fast forward a little bit. Let's go on we'll try and go to about 11 o'clock. So we are at, let's see what time it is. I think we're at about 11 o'clock. Flash flood watch. So we're at 10:30. Still not showing up on the radar yet. So let's just go to about midnight. So we're going to about an hour before devastation. So we're at 11 o'clock. Still 11. Okay. Just lots of rain in that area. And now we see towards Kerrville, we see another cloud forming. heading northeast. Let's just fast forward a little bit more. Let's go. Let's try and get to 12. What time is this here? So now we're at 12 o'clock in the morning. And you can see just below Kerrville, see that red in the center? That's, if it's purple, it's really, really bad. Red is bad enough in the center, and that's just below Kerrville. So now let's just fast forward another 30 minutes. See what the report's saying. Right there. Now it moved up and it's going. So this is at 12:21 and it's starting to go right through Kerrville. And he didn't see that coming. Another front, another storm brewing. So then let's get to 1 o'clock and see if it shows anything. So at 12:30. Just fast forward another 30 minutes. So we're at 2 minutes before 1, and you can see it's still in that area of Kerrville. And it's expanded quite a bit to almost Harper. This is at, so we're minutes away from people going, there's a 20-foot swell. We are flooded out. We are being washed out. People are going missing. So now we're at 106. Still, same kind of a model. It's not like purple, but it's all around. There's nothing around Johnson City, Austin, Georgetown. It's all in Kerrville at 1 o'clock. So let's fast forward a little bit more. Let's go past. Let's go till, what are we at now? 120. And again, this storm is just hanging around Kerrville. Let's fast forward till like 2 o'clock in the morning. See what that looks like. Nothing in San Antonio, just a little bit of green, but it's just all around till 2 o'clock in the morning. It's all in Kerrville. Look at those two areas. I think that's that little green section. Those little, they're showing where most of the flooding is happening, I believe. So let's just go to like 3 in the morning. See if we get any updates here. Because by now, it should be just like, it's like a nightmare. And it's still just hovering over Kerrville. Like it's not even moving, this model. And it's almost 3 o'clock in the morning. So let's just go right past it to like 4 o'clock in the morning. So far, we're looking at 3 hours over Kerrville. Again, that's what got hit the hardest, and it's still there, just in that area. So this is a weird model for sure. And then in the morning, we are at almost 4:30, and they're talking about all the events that are coming. So nobody's monitoring this. Nobody's looking at this. They just went right into, here's what's going on during the day. That's it. So, all right. So enough of that. All right. Let's go back to you guys. I know that might seem long to show all that, but it was important because now we're starting to get into the reasons why this could be man-made. Again, nobody saw this. There were no reports of it coming, and that's normally, if a storm is going to happen, you're going to start to see, hey, we got to evacuate. Like within hours, there was none, no indication, zero. So I want to introduce this this company. I think this will be interesting. Let's see if I can find it here. Oh yes, here it is. All right, so let's go to, we're going to go to right here. This company is in France, and this is basically companies for efficient cloud seeding. And this is what we're going to be talking about. The cloud seeding drones offered by Celeries, that's the name of the company, a French company, through Laco Smart Drones. So they use drones to deliver cloud seeding technology basically into the clouds. They basically release, can you see this here? Let me make sure you guys can see this. Yeah. So they basically release silver. They call it iodine silver, usually milligrams, into the clouds, and then you can actually they gather the precipitation around them, and then they get so heavy that they just drop. So this company has perfected it. Basically, they just program it into their drones and send their drones out towards where the clouds are. They don't make clouds, they just make the clouds that have rain in them, they make them drop. So I wanted to show you this little promo video that they have, just so this kind of makes a little bit more sense as to why I am a conspiracy guy. Maybe this will make more sense to you. Let me make it full screen. Okay, let me just turn this music down here. It's pretty loud. Let me actually turn it off for a sec. Let me make sure you guys can see this all right. Sorry about the technical difficulties. I am, how do you say, past the prime. All right, let me just get rid of this. Let me bring this up. Right here. Okay, so let's just watch how this drone works. I'll try and walk my way through it here. Make sure that you guys can see this. Okay, good. All right, so this is Celery. It's the name of the company. They use smart drones. So basically, the idea is for areas that have drought, water scarcity needed for atmospheric water resource management. That's what they're used for. Cloud seeding for hail risk mitigation, meaning if there is hail approaching a crop or a harvest or a field or homes in a city, whatever, they'll use these drones to fill up these clouds so that it actually rains or hails before it gets to the area that needs protection. Think of Beijing, 2008. The Chinese government had a plan in place to basically get rid of all the rain so that by the time they had their opening ceremony, it was blue sky. So they already had this technology in place, arguably since the 40s, maybe even earlier than that. Just didn't have drones. So here's how it happens. So basically, they have a drone in a casing. It's remote controlled, autonomous. You can program it to work on its own, or you can operate it from another vehicle somewhere. It has remote controlled flight management and embarked sensors for optimized seeding. So it'll actually detect the precipitation, the draft, all kinds of stuff, and it'll determine whether or not this is a good release point to release silver iodide. So automatic flight plan calculation based on forbidden areas, which is kind of interesting, and meteorological conditions. So you can program it to go, you know what, this is a forbidden area, do not go there, or this is an area that we need to send the drones to make sure that we only hit these areas and not other areas. Notice they have airports, cities, stadiums, health centers. So now you can program these drones to follow the storm. So the drones are actually programmed to follow behind the storm and start seeding so that by the time they get to a city or a place that needs protection, these drones will release this silver iodide, and then it's done. So live uploading of optimized flight plans. So you can probably track this yourself if you hire this organization to do it for you, and it can avoid certain areas. Yeah. There it goes. Those are the canisters. Cloud seeding flares platform. So basically they just they will inject, again, like I said, they flare up, and then they will inject silver into these clouds and light them up, and then boom, basically they become heavier. They become like snow, rain, hail, and then they just drop. Cloud seeding electronic management board. Weather sensors, including updrafts detection. This is very important because that's where it needs to go in order to drop the silver. It can go up to 4,000 meters. Real-time drone tracking, radio sounding data, automatic flare ignition upon optimize. So there you go. There's the flares. Basically, yeah, mission accomplished, eh? And then it goes back. You'd never see this thing. Honestly, if you saw a drone, you'd be like, oh yeah, it's just a drone. Another day at the office, and then away it goes. Again, they're not creating something out of nothing. If they know that there's a storm coming, they will basically attack the storm, seed it, and then it'll begin to rain. So why did I show you all that stuff? Because it was important for me to show you that the technology exists and has existed for organizations to drop rain where they want, at the exact time, at the exact place. So if you don't think that this could be weaponized, you're kidding yourself. You're kidding yourself. Yes, it is like a nuclear weapon. You only need a few milligrams of this silver to change the tide of the storm. That's all you need. Just maybe 5 milligrams, maybe 5. And you have to have the perfect height. You have to plan this in advance. So if you get an idea, you know what? For example, with Texas, there is a storm coming in from the Gulf. And if we plan it out, we can send drones in that area. We don't have to send drones to Kerrville. That's silly. Everybody would know what's going on. But what we do is we send it to where the heart of the storm is, where it's just beginning, seed it, so that by the time, depending how fast the storm is, it gets to where we want it, it'll drop at the right place. So that's what I'm proposing that could have happened. Now, that may not be good for my conspiracy buddies, my conspiracy friends, but what if I introduced a company that perhaps you can point a finger at and say, you are solely responsible for flooding Kerrville? What if I can present the company? Now, again, I'm just the black swan. I'm just going to present a company that was being interviewed by a guy that watches for this kind of thing. And I'm going to introduce the company, and it's called Rainmaker. and they're known to be working in Texas. Now, I'm not suggesting that they are an evil company right out of the gate. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to say, look, the most likely company responsible for this could be Rainmaker. But don't take my word for it. We got to ask the CEO himself, Augustus. We got to ask him, was he there? Did his equipment show up in Kerrville at the heart of the location? Did he have equipment there? Did he turn it on? And was he running a weather manipulation system? That's what we're asking. We're asking the question. So I'm going to share with you this video clip of the CEO being interviewed by another guy by the name of Jim Lee. We're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere. This is beginning to be very Black Swanish, isn't it? All right, so let's go to, I give you the Rainmaker. So again, he's being interviewed by Jim Lee, and we're just going to listen. But what I want you to do, and this is so important, this is so important to you. Go back to me for a second. How I approach this interview is I'm watching for signs to see if a person is lying. Am I an expert at telling if people are lying? Yes or no? No, I am not. Why did I ask myself a question when I'm the only one here? I am not an expert. But there are signs that you can pay attention to see whether or not this person is leaning towards truth or towards lying. What are some of the things that people do? Well, some of the things people do is they look down and to the left. And they'll be like, because they're trying to cover up something. If you ask them a point blank question, did you have a cup of coffee? And I'm like, oh man, I mean, no, I had a sandwich instead. You look down and to the left because you're in trouble and you got to formulate something. You got to come up with something to mask it, to take away the shame, or something else. If people are uncomfortable, they'll start going like this. They call it the Pinocchio syndrome. You know, sometimes it'll be, now, I am allergic to dairy, so that doesn't count for me. But what happens if you're telling a story, a fib story, what will happen is they'll go like this. They'll start going like this, or they'll close their eyes when they tell you something. They'll close their eyes because they don't want to look you in the eye, or they'll avoid it. If you ask them, did you drink a cup of coffee today? Did you drink a cup of a medium roast coffee? The person that's lying could say something like, well, I didn't go to the Tim Hortons in Calgary. That doesn't really answer the question. That's dodging the question. In fact, I went to another Tim Hortons just outside of Calgary, Bear's Paw, I believe. And I grabbed the coffee there. So I'm telling you, I'm avoiding the question because you asked me if I got a coffee in Calgary. And I said, well, I got a coffee in a different area. And I'm not being specific. I'm actually dodging the question. Hopefully this will make sense. I'm baiting you a little bit because I want you to watch this interview to see if there's signs of somebody looking away, not answering the question, rubbing their nose, dodging questions, because this is important. If you're telling the truth, you should be looking directly at the camera or the person that's being interviewed and say, I am a male. I've always been a male. I am a male. I am a guy. You should be able to say that, right? So I use that as an example because that's 100%. I could tell you 100% I am a guy. So when you look at someone that's being interviewed and they start getting a little bit shifty, Pay attention to that. Pay attention to that stuff. All right. So, for example, another example, I read the Bible in 31 days, not 30 days. It took me 31 days to get through the entire Bible. The entire Bible. That took a while too. Took a while to do that. 54 hours is what it took me. So, the reason why I know this is because I went through it. I went through it. So I'm exact 54 hours. I time myself. So when people are giving vague explanations, they say things like about, but they give you an exact time. It was about 9:14 a.m. Well, that's kind of specific. I went to approximately the 13th floor of this building, of the engineering building. That's pretty specific, even though I threw in about. I'm trying to throw you off to say, I don't know. I wasn't there. I wasn't there at about 9:14 a.m. I'm lying because that's too specific. So I want you to watch for these social cues. All right, so let us go to the video and watch the interview. And I'm going to talk every once in a while as well.
The interactive timeline, and you can just pop in here and you can divide it up by weather, geoengineering, weather modification, space weather modification, all that fun stuff. But all the way back here in 1972, we had the Weather Modification Reporting Act of 1972. This is the requirement that, people actually tell the federal government, NOAA specifically, and the Department of Commerce. This is Public Law 92205. And this is originally from the original NOAA magazine, Proposed Weather Modification Reporting Regulations published. And now you must be reported to NOAA. So these are the original documents. This came as a result of basically after the Vietnam War, we did Operation Popeye, weather warfare over Vietnam. There was reporting in the New York Times that we had done this Operation Popeye. This led to a whole bunch of bald white guys in Washington, D.C. going, "We can control the weather?" ? So they immediately started passing laws, this being one of the very first one, then the Weather Modification Policy Act of 19.
Water sometimes, drinking sometimes could say you're a little bit nervous, although not all the time. Because if I'm talking for a long time on the channel, sometimes I like to take a little bit of a break, grab my coffee. But water, sometimes reaching for water when being asked a question sometimes could mean that you're lying.
1976, followed up by the Environmental Modification Convention. The weather warfare ban in 1978 was.
So again, Augustus Dorico is the founder or co-founder, CEO of Rainmaker, a technology that is used in Texas and other places to make it rain.
Ratified. So that's pretty much all the laws that are governing this sort of thing. The weather warfare ban does not ban any kind of benevolent weather modification or intentional weather modification within your own borders. So countries can do whatever they want as long as their weather doesn't go screwing with some other country. That could cause a lot of conflict. Now, Augustus, he owns a company. How you started up last year, right?
2023.
2023, that's right. And that is available at rainmaker.com. So what Augustus did was he responded to this accusation here. And, I'm going to throw this in the chat for everybody. You guys can read it yourself. And I'm going to shoot that out to y'all now. All right, there you go. There's the chat link for everybody watching at home. So basically, you want to explain what you got here?
Yeah, sure. So first and foremost, right, like I think it's worth saying what our company is, what we do. Rainmaker is a next-gen cloud seeding company. Our interest is in where there are droughts, where times are too dry and farms are going dry or reservoirs are running out, helping to produce water for those constituencies, farms, ecosystems, utilities, that sort of thing. I think that a lot of people, rightfully so, hear about that and think off the jump, well, did you cause flooding? Can you cause flooding? Did Rainmaker cause flooding in Texas? And first of all, categorically and absolutely no. And
So first of all, when you have to say categorically, I'm going to bring myself up here. If you have to say something like categorically, emphatically, absolutely 100% without a shadow of a doubt, no, that is to me a tell that you're lying. Okay, now I can't prove it yet, but this is something that liars say. Think Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton was like, no, I absolutely did not have sexual intercourse with that woman. Like he's lying in front of a court emphatically and calling people out, looking at them, staring at them. So he says right out of the gate, Augustus says, you're right in saying, hey, did you guys start the storm? Did you guys do anything? And he's like, you're right to ask that question. Emphatically, we did not do any such thing. Like, it's kind of weird to say that. Most people don't do it that way. Most people don't. They just go, no, it's not me. It's ridiculous. All right, let's continue.
we can examine all the evidence that demonstrates that there was no way that we could.
And he's looking down to the right saying, we can examine all the evidence going, oh, crap, I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have said that because what he knows is where he was or where they were or whatever. But it's almost like you're suggesting that they look at all the evidence. And he looked down and to the right because he's trying to go, I gotta make myself look good, or my company or my organization. I have to look good. So he's looking down and to the right. If he looked up and to the right, that just means he's seen his company at work, and that's okay. Like if he said, hey, I was in Las Vegas last week doing this, and he looks up to the right, that tells you that he's going from memory.
Have participated in causing any of the flooding there. That said, it was a tragedy that it did happen. And I think there's a lot of things that the country can do differently to try to mitigate disasters like that in the future. And I think there's a lot of things that we can regulate differently so that people have less concerns about weather modification activities writ large. And so in that thread, originally somebody asked, can you disclose where you were operating in Texas, what you were doing in Texas, and if you had any impact on the tropical storm Barry that blew through. And again, that storm, just to go through the timeline of events, right? The National Weather Service on the 3rd at about 1 a.m. Posted a severe flood risk, right? Then the subsequent day at about 4 a.m, they announced that there was a high probability of like life-threatening flooding.
So on the 3rd, he said at 1 o'clock in the morning, probability of risk. And then he gives another specific time on the next day at 4 o'clock in the morning. And I'm assuming he's talking about July 4th. So he's being asked the question on this Twitter feed, was your company at the location of the worst part of the storm? And he's looking down and making sure that he says everything by the book. He doesn't want to get himself in trouble. So he's formulating it, how to articulate it the right way.
That was from the convergence of two different extremely moist systems, one coming up from the Gulf.
A little bit of scratching with the finger on the eye, a little bit nervous here.
One coming up from the Pacific. And Rainmaker did not operate on the 3rd, on the 4th. We operated for about 20 minutes, days in advance, and seeded a cloud that dissipated after 2 hours.
So for 20 minutes, for about 20 minutes, days in advance, not on the 3rd or the 4th, like you accused me of. We weren't there. We planned this days in advance. Planned. That's important.
and then suspended all operations indefinitely because there was risk of flooding. And so
So then they suspended all operations, I think because it worked, 3rd and the 4th.
after our 20-minute operation, which was flown at about 2,500 feet,
So after 20 minutes, which was flown at about 2,400 feet. That's pretty exact. Pretty exact.
where we only dispersed about 60 grams of silver iodide aerosol.
Silver iodide aerosol. That is, just to put this in context, let me just do this real quick here. Let's see. How can I find this here? All right. So let's say what is let's see here. So let's see. The amount of silver iodide usually is about so 60 grams is little. Did he say 60 milligrams or 60 grams? Because 60 grams is a little bit different than 60 milligrams. So let me just back it up a couple of seconds here.
Indefinitely because there was risk of flooding. And so after our 20-minute operation, which was
So notice he's also flying when he knows there is a flood, a risk of a flood, and he's flying. That's weird.
flown at about 2,500 feet, where we only dispersed about 60 grams of silver iodide.
Okay, 60 grams is a lot. For a single flight for 20 minutes, that's a lot. I think the average is like 5 milligrams. What is the average for seeding? So depending on the coverage, you're looking at single flare is about 500 milligrams. So airborne flight mission, 10 to 50 milligrams, sometimes up to 100. Ground-based generator, we haven't talked about that, but these are generators that are on the ground, usually a high mountaintop, 2 to 5 grams. Seeding rockets, which China used, I believe, in 2008 Beijing Olympics. Complete storm targeting operation, 20 to 70 grams total, depending on the duration and scale. 5 grams is normal. Anything over 20 to 60 grams, especially in a single sortie or isolated zone, can represent a significant operation. This is not a tiny test. So 60 milligrams is a lot to use in 20 minutes. That's a lot. That's my whole point here.
Iodide aerosol. We stopped operating, and those aerosols could not have persisted for the days that came afterwards. And
were you using the typical like ice flares, or were you using your proprietary system?
We were using silver iodide aerosol.
Okay. Yeah. So it wasn't like the ice flares brand, flare sticks or anything like that.
We don't use ice crystal engineering.
Okay.
All right. So enough of that. So if you want to look at that interview, it's Climate Viewer. Did Rainmaker flood Texas? That's what that whole interview is called. I think it's good to check it out. There's lots that he says on there. And again, he never said that they weren't in operation. What they said is in advance of July 3rd and July 4th, he was not there. But he only went out for 20 minutes. That tells me that it looks like that he was there before July 3rd to get things going. And sometimes it takes a little bit. If there's an updraft, go out to the Gulf, release your drone, and then the wind takes it over that area. And because you put 60 grams, not milligrams, 5 grams is okay. That's typical. 60. You're doing something on purpose. This is not a test. And you went up to 2,400 feet. You went to a specific level for 20 minutes, deployed your silver iodide, 60 grams, and then left. So he said they were deploying before July 3rd and 4th, but he denied that he was there. And that perhaps Jim could have asked him a different question. Were you in a region where if you deployed the drones, could this have affected Kerrville later, a day later, 2 days later, whatever it is? I think there has to be a little bit more of an investigation with the company known as Rainmaker. It's too suspect for me. Too suspect. Why do I say this? Because if you look at this, let's have a look. Let me just read this real quick here. I think this is important. So much to go through. Now, I didn't want to spend all day on this, just like an hour or so. Let me just go to this little article here. This is a message to the Congress by Lyndon B. Johnson. You guys might know this. This is one of your guys' presidentes. So let me just read a little bit of this message to the Congress, transmitting 6th annual report on weather modification back in 1965. Crazy, right? That this stuff is going on for a long time. Let me see if I can find. Okay. Message to the Congress. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's not a big article. Just read a little bit. To the Congress of the United States, I am transmitting herewith for the consideration of Congress, as submitted to me by the Director of National Science Foundation, the development of methods for altering weather and climate to the benefit of mankind is a subject of quickening interest. In 1965, this is of interest in the Congress and the executive branch of the government of the United States, and indeed as to all the human race. We recognize that the achievement of such capacity would mean vast economic, social gains for human life on this earth. I believe it is both symptomatic and symbolic of the character of the American people that we are now engaged in first steps towards this goal, not for any narrow national purpose, but in the confidence that such benefits will be shared as mutual blessing with all of our fellow men. We hope someday to acquire the knowledge permitting us to minimize the incidence and severity of hurricanes and tornadoes and other violent storms. Also, to be able to improve the temperature and rainfall conditions in agricultural and industrial regions. This hope is not fanciful or unrealistic, but it would be misleading to suggest that a day is near. So basically, this is the future. This is where they want to go. And I want to go all the way down to the 4 positive actions which are reviewed. These actions include the following: increased support for atmospheric research. This is one of the reasons why they want to do it, by a number of federal agencies, including the National Science Foundation, U.S. Weather Bureau, National Aeronautics and Space Administration, and the Department of the Interior and the Department of Defense. We need to use this weapon for defense, for war. Establishment of special commission, weather modification by national science, charged with assessing anticipated benefits to the gain from weather modification efforts. So they're looking into this. They want to know, what are the benefits? Can we go to war? Can we defend our country with weather modification efforts? And goes on and on and on. So basically, and we can and we do believe that eventually these efforts underway will now succeed. That success will inure to the credit of the interest, initiative, and understanding of the Congress in offering encouragement and support to this worthy and important research. The White House, May May 24th, 1965. Isn't it interesting that we're in July of 2025? Okay, I want to show you this. The reason why I brought up the idea that this could be man-made is look at this. Look at this time frame here. Nothing going on. Nothing to see here, folks. July 1st, July 2nd, July 3rd. All of a sudden, July 4th at 4 o'clock in the morning, we get a spike. Look at this. Gauge height in feet. 35 feet height of water all of a sudden. Almost like it was planted. Something happened, and then it went back to normal by July 5th. And all the way down a little bit here and there. But that's it. Weird, right? Crazy, right? I'm crazy. I'm just a crazy conspiracy guy, right? Telling you, some of the higher ups need to look into this. Not too high up because they're probably part of it. But somebody needs to look into this and say, you know what? I'm glad you brought this up, Rainmaker, to suggest that you weren't there. But just for the sake of argument, could we maybe just interview you a little bit longer with cameras? And we just want to record everything leading up to July 3rd. Could we do that? Is that okay with you? I want to know exactly where you were. I want to know exactly where all your drones were. I want to know if there are any drones between, let's just say, July 1st and July 3rd in the vicinity of, let's just say, 200 miles. How far do your drones fly? Oh, they fly 150 miles at the max. 80 miles one way, 80 miles that. Okay. So 80 miles outside of Kerrville, did you have any drones deployed at all between July 1st and July 2nd? Yes or no? Look at me. Don't look at the ground. Look at me. It's a simple question. And if he hums and haws and he's like a senator, I'll have to look into that. I have to talk to my lawyer because I'm in trouble. This is uncomfortable for me. Drill him. Drill him. He'll sing like a canary. He'll plead. He'll make deals, whatever it is. I think. Just my thoughts, my humble opinion. He may not be the guy responsible, but he was there. He said it. He was not there on July 3rd, but he said he went out for 20 minutes. His drone went out, and he even gave you the exact height, and he gave you the exact milligram, the exact gram, not milligram, gram. He said 60 grams. So I would investigate that all day long. Okay, where were you at 2,400 feet? You said you're at 2,400 feet. Were you at 2,400 feet on July 3rd? No. July 2nd? Yes. Where? I think that's reasonable. We have 82 people that are dead, several missing. I think it's reasonable to ask Rainmaker, who's responsible for making it rain. That's his company slogan. I think it's reasonable if you have nothing to hide. Let's bring you in for investigation while we grill you from every different angle. I think that is fair, because if he comes through with flying colors, he's going to look like a hero, man. I'm telling you, his company will explode. Countries from all over will use their services, but if he's guilty, now you have precedents, and then you can now formulate bills and say, look, we need to document everything. Everything needs to be logged. Every time you fly a drone, I need to know when that drone went up in the air and where. And there are no drones allowed when there's a flood coming. Something like that. I don't know. I drafted up. Yeah. All right. Hey, Bubba News. How you doing, David? So I know we went a little long today, but I hope that the reason why I make videos like this, not necessarily just for you guys, it's not necessarily just for me, it's to document what's going on. Originally, I called my channel Black Swan Diaries because I wanted to document what people were thinking and how they were thinking in that time frame, so that I can come back a month, 2 months, 6 months, a year later and go, I was onto something, or I was totally off, whatever it is. But I have to document this because some of this stuff could be harder to find down the road. And you'll be like, oh, I can't find this footage. Where did it go? Well, it's here. So that's why I do what I do. And that's why I made it a little bit longer today. It's kind of investigative, if you will. Sort of if somebody else were to watch this show and go, you know what? That is interesting. That Rainmaker was there before July 3rd. Maybe we should look into it. Maybe we should look into other companies that had drones flying around making rain. I think it's reasonable. Anyways, hope you guys had fun today. Hope you got something out of this. I will see you guys in another video. Thanks again for watching. Appreciate you guys. Ciao.
Black Swan Revelations here on YouTube brought you today's mind-bending journey. Dive into the discussion, your comments, questions, prayer requests, and powerful testimonies of Jesus' love are what fuel this community. Did today's episode hit home? Smash that like button. New here? Subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss a live stream or a video upload. Thanks for being part of today's adventure. Catch you in the next video, or maybe even in the clouds. Stay curious, stay blessed.